I'm John, by the way. I don't think we've met.
Rory Campbell, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Rory. Yeah.
Rory, how are you? Nice to meet you.
We're good to go? Okay. It is a great disappointment, but certainly no surprise that Premier Jacinta Allen has rejected our proposal as an opposition that there be a Royal Commission on the terms I proposed yesterday when we presented Premier Allen with a range of very sensible and targeted terms of reference. It's no surprise that Premier Jacinta Allen has rejected our proposal for a Royal Commission because that's what she does all the time. She never takes responsibility for her own actions. And when it came to the Commonwealth Games debacle, which was bad enough, Premier Jacinta Allen refused to take responsibility. Now, one of the biggest crises to face Victoria, corruption rampant on taxpayer-funded work sites. Is the Premier in Jacinta Allen taking responsibility there? No, of course not, because that's her form, not to take responsibility for any of her own actions. I said yesterday that the Royal Commission would be a test of whether Premier Jacinta Allen is really serious about cleaning up the corruption and the kickbacks and the bribery on taxpayer-funded sites. It was her chance to demonstrate to the Victorian people that unlike everything she's done and said in the past, she is prepared to take responsibility, face the music, ensure that there is a thorough investigation that can go wherever the evidence leads it. Premier Jacinta Allen has failed that test, and I think she should resign. I said that yesterday. I wanted to give her the opportunity as Premier and as somebody who has had a checkered past when it comes to her performance as a minister, not taking responsibility, to do something different, to actually be accountable. She's failed that test. That's why I think the Premier should resign. I strongly believe that she can no longer, with credibility, carry out her role. How can she, with credibility, say she's prepared to clean up the mess she has overseen, not only as minister, but as Premier, when she's not prepared to allow accountability to occur and independent inquiries to take place into all that's gone wrong, to look at all the suffering, all the suffering by innocent people, all the bribes and kickbacks that have occurred under her watch. Her government has no credibility, and her legitimacy to claim that she's able to clean up this mess is seriously in question. There is simply no way that she can do that. And maybe it's a reflection of the fact that Premier Jacinta Allen wasn't elected to her role. The Victorian people never elected Premier Jacinta Allen to be Premier. And so not only do we have a lack of credibility on this issue, there are now serious questions about legitimacy and her ability to oversee this process. I'm now certain that we're not going to get to the bottom of this crisis until there is a change of government in November 2026, which we will be working very hard to achieve. The other important point to note about Premier Jacinta Allen's effective inaction on all of this, everything that Premier Jacinta Allen has said over the last few days will do nothing to remove bikies from work sites. They're still there. The corruption, the kickbacks and the bribery will still occur because Premier Jacinta Allen hasn't removed those elements from taxpayer-funded work sites, which the Victorian government ultimately controls and is ultimately responsible for. Just a couple of other quick points on a couple of other issues. Today's housing data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics shows that Victoria is building fewer homes this year than it was last year. So despite Premier Jacinta Allen's housing statement some 9 or 10 months ago, we're actually falling further behind the targets we need to be meeting to ensure the Victorians can put roofs over their heads. We're seeing 2,700 less homes being built this year than at the same time last year. And we're well behind the government's own stated target of 80,000 homes a year. What else can you expect but Victoria to continue to fall further and further behind the housing targets we need to meet when you've got the highest business taxes in the country, the highest property taxes in the country, the highest work cover premiums in the country, and a government that just doesn't get that we need investment in residential housing to boost that supply. And on top of all of those problems, we have a big build which is not only rotten, as we're seeing now, it's also causing massive delays in workforce and supply shortages, which is also affecting the building of residences around our state. Finally, our thoughts go out to those thousands of Victorians who want jobs and can't get them. Again, we have a state that is being financially mismanaged by the Allen Labor government, which is today seeing an unemployment rate of well over 4%. That's well above any other state in the country. And it's because we're the worst run state in the country. That's why we have the highest unemployment rate. And sadly, it's going to be hard to turn that around when our taxes are so high, work cover premiums are so high, when business confidence is so low, when the big rotten build is pushing out private investment and private sector jobs growth in this state. We are likely to see challenges in bringing that figure down until there is a change of government and we can fix up this state after all the damage that the Allen Labor government has caused. I'll hand over to David.
Thanks very much, JP. Labor's big build is rotten, it's compromised with bikie gangs and corruption, and Jacinta Allen is to blame. Make no mistake that every single cost blowout on the big build is largely due to Jacinta Allen not being able to manage these projects properly, and now, as we've seen, allowing bikie gangs and criminal activity onto these big build sites. When will Jacinta Allen stand up and remove the bikie gangs off the sites? Why won't Jacinta Allen agree to a royal commission to get to the bottom of all of this? Jacinta Allen cannot be the person to clean this up. Jacinta Allen's been well and truly entangled in all of this right from the beginning. We need a royal commission, and the fact that Jacinta Allen won't agree to that shows that she's not interested in cleaning up the mess at the big build. When we hear reports only today of more people that have been booted off big build sites and replaced with CFMEU workers at 3 times the price, and in many cases not even having the machinery to do the work, something's not right there. We know that every single time when these types of situations are happening on the big build, Victorian taxpayers pay for it. These are the costs. This is the $40 billion worth of blowouts, and ultimately 10 years of Labor, and Jacinta Allen's big build has failed. It's rotten, and Jacinta Allen is fairly and squarely to blame. In terms of the Committee of Melbourne have come out with a number of reports in terms of the kinds of projects that Victorians are looking for. There is only one project that the government should be focused on at the moment in terms of a new project, and that is airport rail. Victorians have been calling for an airport rail for a long time now, and when we think we're very close to it, again we see the government swapping it out for their pet project of suburban rail loop. This again shows that Victorians want an airport rail. We can't be the only main state in the country and main destination in the world without an airport rail. Everyone else has one, why don't we? And I think it's pretty simple. Jacinta Allen doesn't want an airport rail. She's signed Victorians up to her pet project, the suburban rail loop. Who knows what we've been signed up to? And ultimately, let's get a project that we can all get behind. Let's get a project that delivers rail to the growing Melbourne's North and Melbourne's West, and let's get a project that benefits the whole state, not just one part of Melbourne.
Any questions for David to start with?
Okay. There was a case in the federal court today where the CFMU had its fines doubled, and the judge, this was an incident in 2019, and the judge noted that CFMUs deserved to have their fines doubled because of their pattern of belligerent behaviour. Do you think that shows that the government should have known?
Yeah. What this case demonstrates, like so many similar cases about the CFMEU before it, is that the Allen Labor government has always known how belligerent, how disruptive, how disrespectful the CFMEU is of our laws and our courts. This case goes back to 2019. And as the federal court has stated today, it's doubled the fines, and it's had particular regard to a history of defiance and disrespect by the CFMEU for our laws and institutions. You just can't trust Jacinta Allen as Premier when she says she didn't know about this history of bad behaviour by the CFMEU. We've seen it played out in the federal court and other courts around the country for years. Premier Jacinta Allen has been warned about this conduct by the CFMEU for years.
There were three ministers out today, Marianne Thomas, Lisa Glanthorne and Steve Dimopoulos, all asked the same question. Have you ever been told, formally or informally, about issues, misconduct at the CFMEU work sites? All say no. Do you believe it?
Labour hire firms, other employers have been raising these issues for years with people right across politics. We know that. They tell us they've spoken to the government. We know that the government has been told about these matters. They just were simply too cowardly to take on these complaints that were brought to them and failed to act.
Do you consider, the Commission's doesn't seem like it's going to happen, would you consider using Parliament's upper house to set up an inquiry?
We'll be working with the crossbench in the upper house of the Victorian Parliament now that Premier Jacinta Allen has refused to allow a Royal Commission to proceed, which would be the best course. We will work closely to see if we can secure that support from the upper house. This matter has to be investigated, and no one in Victoria should have any confidence that she's going to do is going to lead to the truth and to accountability, and finally people being held responsible for the terrible things that have occurred on taxpayer-funded work sites.
Was Dennis Napthine an illegitimate Premier because he wasn't elected by the people?
Dennis Napthine was a person who always accepted accountability and responsibility. The problem we've got with Premier Jacinta Allen is that she's taken over from former Premier Daniel Andrews, has balked and failed at every opportunity to do that. And the reason I talk about a lack of credibility and a lack of legitimacy is that she had an opportunity to demonstrate, as recently as yesterday, when I presented her on behalf of my colleagues and I with a very sensible proposal for a Royal Commission, and she's rejected that as well. And so it does raise questions about whether she is delivering the leadership our state desperately needs at this time.
On the committee for Melbourne survey, things that are identified that Melburnians, I guess, that rank low with things like housing affordability and congestion. Does it surprise you that those are things that I guess Melburnians are struggling with at the moment?
Those matters I talk to Victorians about every day of the week, and they're crying out for solutions, and they're concerned that the direction Premier Jacinta Allen and her government are taking the state is putting all of our eggs in one basket. They understand this. The Victorian people understand that we have an enormous range of infrastructure priorities and challenges right across our state, not just here in our great city of Melbourne, but in the growth corridors and in the regions, and they're not going to get that because they can see that under Premier Allen, our state's broke. There's no money and they can't manage money.
81% of Melburnians are satisfied with their quality of life. What's your reaction to that number? Do you think it's a good number?
Well, it's certainly, I think you'll get mixed views wherever you travel. If I go to Melbourne's western suburbs or northern or southeastern or in the regions, I can tell you they don't feel like they're being treated equally. They don't feel like they have a government that is being a proper voice for them. Look at roads. Look at Mildura Base Hospital, which has to find millions and millions of dollars of cuts. We've got roads that are not car-worthy right across regional Victoria. I speak to people right across our state, as do my colleagues, and we hear these stories of hardship right across our state, and they want a government that's going to respond to that. Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.